Okay. Good evening and welcome to our CAC Commission meeting, Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. We're going to call our meeting to order. This is Vice Chair Sticks calling to order the Newcastle Communities Activities Commission meeting. The time is 7 p.m. This public meeting is being recorded and may be viewed later on the city's YouTube channel. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Scott, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Van Atta.
Present.
Commissioner Polson.
Here.
Commissioner Lewis. Oh, just kidding, this is old. Commissioner D'Souza.
Here.
Commissioner George.
Here.
Commissioner Flash.
Here.
And Vice Chair Sticks.
Present.
6 present and accounted for.
Thank you. Next, agenda approval. So before I have approval for the agenda, I'd like to add an 8.7 to do the park inventory. I forgot to add that before it was published. So do I have the okay to add 8.7 park inventory? Okay,
Yes.
Then if there is no objection to approval of tonight's agenda as presented, I don't see any objections, so please show the final agenda approved as presented. In the absence of having a records staff member, we don't have our minutes from our prior meeting available yet, so we will not have approval of the minutes quite yet. Next, public comment. Scott, do we have anybody who wants to do public comment online?
I don't believe so.
No? Nope. Anyone in the audience who wants to do public comment? No? Okay. Let's do commissioner comments and celebrations. Commissioner Flash, you want to get us started?
Put me on the spot. I'm just enjoying the increase or the improvement in the weather. So I've been out walking a lot, and people have been out walking a lot. So make sure to greet people as they walk past you in the neighborhoods and in the parks, and enjoy just the environment of Newcastle, which is great, as we all know that.
Commissioner George?
Thank you. I have a number of comments tonight, just to be aware. I wanted to first start by saying I had a terrific time at the YMCA Healthy Kids Day, volunteering alongside Ed and the Arts Council. It was a well-attended event with lots of families. Thanks to the YMCA for organizing and hosting it, as well as all the local businesses and organizations who were there to promote health and wellness in our community. I also want to offer my kudos to the Newcastle Historical Society for all their work preserving and sharing our local history. I volunteered to help lead several history walks last week, starting from the Red Town Trailhead into both King County property and City of Bellevue property, about all the local coal mining history. These were done for 5 classes of elementary school students last week. And I just want to call out the great service that they do for our community, both in preserving the past, but also ensuring our future and the well-being of that area. I also want to say a thank you to our departing city staff. I do apologize that I was not aware of what was happening. It was not in the public packet to be able to do this at last week's council meeting in person. So I will say it here for the record in public. I want to thank our outgoing HR director, Sarah Jacobs. I did not work with her directly, but her impact on the CAC was greatly appreciated. With 2 decades of service, she was the institutional knowledge that helped us bring Newcastle Days back in full force this past September. So thank you to her. I also want to thank outgoing City Clerk Paul Wright for his exceptional professionalism and knowledge. I was always confident as a commissioner that we were abiding by open public record and open public meeting guidelines under his guidance, and I greatly appreciated that. And I certainly, last but not least, cannot go without thanking our outgoing communications manager, Kate Langsdorf. Her expertise and skill, her grace under pressure, her going above and beyond the call of duty to serve our community is greatly appreciated by me, especially stepping in well above and beyond to help us bring back Newcastle Days. So my sincere gratitude to those three members. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Commissioner De Sousa.
Thank you for that, Amy. That's really sweet. I just want to celebrate our Earth Month, which I will be recapping later on. So yeah, I think it was great, and I was happy to get out in Newcastle and take the bus.
Thank you. Commissioner Paulson?
I'm kind of like Ed, I'm loving this weather, and I would encourage you guys all, if you haven't yet, drive up China Creek, because all of the azaleas all the way up the hill are in full bloom, and it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. So.
And Commissioner Van Atta.
Well, like everyone else, I'm normally out no matter what the weather with the dog, and it's nice to see other people out there with me too. Lots of people to smile and say hello to and appreciate the beauty of our city. It's stunning right now. I was drinking coffee on the patio this morning. Had a hard time going inside to go to work.
Thank you so much. And I would just like to also share how much I appreciate this commission and how much more I'm going to appreciate this commission over the next several months, given the state of our union right now, which we'll get into more detail here. But I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys being on the commission, being volunteers with the commission, and helping us keep our events alive. So thank you. Okay, our first report is from our Events and Recreation Coordinator, which of course we know in Alexa's absence and her resignation, the city is going to be hiring a new part-time events coordinator. But in that absence, and while the city does their search, we will be pursuing some support to help us with our events. We're not ready to discuss what those options are tonight, but as soon as more information becomes available, we will share with the commission and with council, hopefully in the next week or so. We should have more information, but we are definitely going to be getting some support to help us, because Jeff and Scott can't do this themselves. And although Jeff is already, with Deb and Jeff have already reached out to a lot of companies, so between the two of them, they've got a lot of things lined up, and we have a report from Jeff here that we'll review. Do you want to go through that now, or go through it when I get to those points?
I think that makes more sense to do it on that point of the agenda. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, with that, Newcastle Arts Council.
Thank you. As usual, we have a long list of things that have happened and are to happen. So we closed out in March our annual Newcastle Area Youth Art Exhibition at the library. We had a People's Choice Award where people could vote on the favorites of the show, and Alina Mehta and Daria Rudy were the two winners this year. I also want to thank BECU, the King County Library, Newcastle Library, For Culture, City of Newcastle, Frosty Barrel, Friends of Newcastle Library, Youth Theater Northwest, Blazing Onions, and Mod Pizza for helping to put together a really nice prize package for those two winners, and then one random person that was selected out of the entries that were submitted. We did an origami event also at the library. There were 62 participants, so packed room. We had to send people away because we hit capacity with that one. We did a watercolor event at the library, also hitting capacity. That was just 20 participants, but we had people on the waiting list that couldn't attend because we didn't have room for them. We did a fundraiser at Tapatio's on April 25th, and we had a great turnout. So for those that were there, I know I saw a few of you. Thank you for supporting not only the Newcastle Arts Council, but a really great local Newcastle business, and they certainly appreciate any support that we can give them. And then, as Amy pointed out, we participated in the Coal Creek YMCA Healthy Kids Day on April 29th, and the YMCA anticipated that there were 600 people there in participation. So pretty much back to the way it was pre-pandemic. And they said it was a great hit, and we did sidewalk chalk on the sidewalk, and so the parking lot was filled with lots of art done by kids and those adults with them. And then we did a Mother's Day card making event. We had about 70 people that attended that this last weekend. Going forward, on May 21st, we're doing a fundraiser at Mod Pizza. All you have to do is walk in and just say, I'm there for the fundraiser, and 20% of your bill goes toward supporting the Newcastle Arts Council. They are having limited hours that day. They're running into some staffing issues, and so they've cut back their hours just for that Sunday. Then we're doing rock painting on June 3rd at Lake Morton Park, another hugely popular event in the past, so we do expect a big crowd for that. And that's going to actually be to refresh the rock garden that's at City Hall, which desperately needs a refresh. We did that back in 2019, so it's been 4 years since we've laid down some rocks there. Another fun event on June 16th, Mafia Murder Mystery Party at the library. This is an after-hours event. 50 people are allowed to be in attendance, and the registration opens up on May 20th. So please sign up early if you plan to go to that. The library did one 4 or 5 years ago and was a huge, I don't know if anyone was there, but it was, I didn't attend, but I heard it was a great event, so we brought it back this year. We're doing a fundraiser at Frosty Barrel the week of July 13th. And so mark that on your calendars. And we're doing it that day because our Newcastle Art Fair is July 15th, so that's the Saturday of that. We're doing a paper quilling event also in July. We are plan to participate in the concerts with our Snack Shack and Zentangle in August, and then of course we'll be at Newcastle Days as well. So that's it with going on with us, except for we've been working with Davi on the utility box project that the CAC approved or recommended a couple of months ago, and so hopefully by the end of the month we'll have an artist call that'll go out for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Amy, any Chamber of Commerce updates?
Just a short one. The week after next, I believe it's Tuesday, the 23rd, the Chamber is hosting an after-hours networking, socializing event at Loco Chan. It's $5 to register, and it includes all-you-can-eat appetizers. Drinks are, you pay, it's on your own for that, but it is open to the public, and people are welcome to stop by. It's 6 o'clock at Loco Chan, and you can register ahead of time at newcastlechamber.org.
Great, thank you. So one thing I'm going to recommend to the commission is we also look into getting a liaison to Newcastle Trails and the Historical Society, so that every commission meeting we can also have updates on anything we've learned from those volunteer commissions, right? Which we will not do tonight, but we will get to that. Okay. So first thing under general business, I wanted to provide an update with event sponsorship. So as you can well imagine, with waiting till we heard the final outcome of Alexa coming back or not coming back, and And knowing what our event statuses were, we finally have some finality. I've been meeting with Jeff and Scott and Linda quite a bit this last week. And the good news is the events are a go. Ed and I are going to be pursuing the top tier sponsors from last year. Even without getting any sponsorship money, our events would still be funded for the summer. So getting sponsorships from the local businesses will just help us to secure the funds necessary for our events. But if we did not even go out and get any money, we'd still be able to have the events. That money was in the budget and secured. And the reason that Amy, Ed, and I were going to be working on sponsorships, we had 104 businesses we had identified, and now with just the top tier, we're looking between 16 and 20 that we'll go and meet with. And that should give us the extra funding that we would need. Okay.
Nathan, quick question. I had two, but you just answered the second one. One of our initial hesitations was the plan to execute on what was promised to each of the sponsors, with lacking a communications manager who did most of those functions. Is there a plan in place to make sure the banners happen, the shout outs happen, all of those things happen as promised to the sponsors? Or is that going to be modified in any way?
Well, that's a very good question. So the one thing that I've been asking Scott to help with is coming up with that checklist, right? All of the things for the 3 different categories of events to make sure that we have a record of what those things are. And so we can go through and say, what can we deliver? What can we promise? And I believe we'll be able to deliver and promise all of those, right? I mean, at this point,
Yes, I believe so as well.
yep. So we're going to have a communications person to support our events at some point. And I think as soon as that is announced, we can move forward with whatever we need to have communicated out to our sponsors, to the businesses, to the community, et cetera. Okay. And with that, Jeff is going to be providing us with a new sponsorship agreement form that has the new event email. So in the meantime, Jeff has created a city email address for our events. It's events@newcastlewad.gov. So if anybody has any questions, staff can send those people to that email address. And in the meantime, I think Jeff is the one who's going to actually be looking at those emails and following up on.
Yeah, that's correct. Those emails will go to my inbox right now.
Right. Okay. Any other questions on the event sponsorships? Okay.
One thing, if I could, Commissioner Sticks, is just to point out for the entire council is that, or commission, I'm sorry, is that the sponsorship number that was in the budget, that's always been a goal. It's not, something that has to be met or reached. Not with saying all the trouble with, now Alexa being gone, but even that, it was always I just wanted to clarify for everybody that the expectation was not that he had to get that number. It was just that was a fundraising goal, not a must achieve. And like you said, the expense is already budgeted. And I think going forward, they would look at like next year's budget and to see how the fundraising occurred this year. And of course, having a few years of no events has made the history a little bit difficult to try and put together. But it's always been a goal, not a must achieve number.
So back to a question earlier was about the banners and the shout outs and things like that. We do know that based upon our deadline for the sponsorships, we have till June 16th. So that's kind of our target date to make sure we've got all of our ducks lined up. And then from that point, because we still have a little bit of time here, like a little over a month, to make sure that we get all those things secured and get our checklist together so that we can continue securing our events. Okay, 8.2 is summer event status, and Jeff did a very nice job of recapping that for us. So do you want to review that?
Sure. One thing, this is just information I've gleaned over the last week or so. I'm not sure to what extent any of this has been discussed. I've listened to the last two CAC meetings. But just in terms of 4th of July, maybe we'll do that one last because that has the most maybe we'll go there. The big thing, the news is that the question was, apparently Alexa didn't do anything. The fireworks vendor had only been contacted back in February, and when I made contact with him, he's waiting to hear back. So he is not available on July 4th, nor is there any commercial fireworks person available on July 4th at this point. So the recommendation is that we move the event to the 1st, which could actually have some benefit because then more people might be able to attend that. And then we have him booked. We have Matt booked for that date, and then Soul Siren is also booked for that date. And then we'll proceed with contracting if we finalize moving it to that date. We don't know about food trucks. An inquiry was sent earlier this week. We haven't heard back from them. From Culinex Kitchen is the outfit that coordinated the food trucks last year. And then the tentative schedule is there. So I don't know if you want to just hit them event by event, or do you want to have me go through the whole update?
Well, let's just ask the commissioners first. Are we all comfortable moving the fireworks event to Saturday, July 1st? I just wanted to get a feel for a comfort area. And Chief Kajihiro also shared that Tuesday, July the 4th would have been very hard for the Newcastle Police to be able to have enough officers who are available to help us on Saturday, July 1st. He feels very comfortable.
I also talked to the sound guy this morning, and they had sent, you may have it already, they had sent Alexa a quote early in February and said they never heard back. So you may have it, but they are available on both the 1st and the 4th, but the 4th would have been time and a half for their people. So they were very excited about the time change because they said that's their busiest day of the year.
Perfect. Yeah, I've got. I didn't mention that. I do have access to Alexa's email, and that's AT Productions. Is that who that? Yeah. Yeah. So I'll go find that and once the date's locked in, then
I went over all the bands and the Newcastle band with him today. So
Okay.
now he said they're all amazing bands, so we're in good shape there.
Great.
But he's going to send us a new quote based on the bands because he said some of them take more setup time than others.
Okay.
So that should be in my box tomorrow, and I'll send it to you as soon as I.
Perfect. Appreciate that.
I agree with the comment that I think we're going to get a better turnout on July 1st than the 4th. So I'm all in favor of it.
Okay. Jeff, you want to go over summer concerts?
Sure. Perfect. So summer concerts. The information's there. None of the bands are booked, to my knowledge, and looks like bands have been contacted for the 2 last August dates.
I do have a complete update on this,
perfect. Okay,
especially
great.
as of this morning. So the Randy Lindner Band is ready to go for July 26th.
Okay.
Randy Lindner is, he was recommended by one of you guys, actually. He played at a Sammamish event. And he's a CCR tribute band. Their online videos are amazing. So that's July 26th. August 2nd is Kings of Hollywood,
Okay,
who
perfect.
we've had before. It's been many, many years, but they're an Eagles tribute band. Very, very good. Again, August 9th is the Bob Seger Main Street Band. And we haven't had that band here before, but their online videos are really good. And this is a guy we know. He also heads up Cherry Cherry. So Cherry Cherry is going to come for Newcastle Days, which is really exciting because he knows Alan White and can do a little tribute. And he knows Gigi. Just 2 weekends ago, he played at their daughter's wedding in Arizona. So that's a really great tie-in to our Alan White Day for Newcastle Days. And then August 16th is Seattle Seattle Gold classic hits band, and they play very good classic hits from the decades 70s, 80s, 90s. So I can share the prices I discussed with them.
Sure.
And then, but I didn't negotiate any prices with them. I just shared like what your email said we would pay.
Gotcha. Okay, and then once you have that handed, and then we'll have a handoff, and then I'll proceed with getting them booked and
Okay.
get the contract agreement sent out.
Yeah, cool. I'll
Okay.
email it to you
Perfect.
later tonight.
Thank you. And so then same situation with the food truck. So it's great to hear all the bands are essentially lined up.
Oh, and one other thing, the
Yep.
ATI, the ATI,
AT Productions.
AT Productions, they're lined up for all the bands as well, or for all the dates plus Newcastle Days.
Gotcha. And that updated quote will include Newcastle, all three
Yeah,
events?
yeah.
Great, great. Same situation with the food trucks, because the inquiry was for all summer events. And then schedule, I think just it's been historically always 7 to 8:30. And then Newcastle Days, not much information there. Cherry, you already mentioned that they're booked. The car show, I don't remember where I heard this from, but somebody told me not too long ago that they thought it was too late for the car show, but I just blanked on her name, I'm sorry.
Susie O'Brien.
Susie O'Brien, I talked with her and she was like, oh, great. And she got me in touch with Lance Lambert, who has emceed it before. He's booked. I already sent the agreements already in the works. So that's a go. We're having a planning meeting next Wednesday here at City Hall. And then it's just a matter of, coordinating and deciding on all the activities and the schedule, all that. And I believe that, that's pretty much driven by your decisions, how you want to see the event shape out. What I don't know is the lead times for booking things like this. It's not, it's not like a 4th of July type of thing where a lot of people are going to be booked. And I can, we've, not as likely, but there are always a lot of in at the summer events. But we have all the historical, if you want to know who was at Newcastle Days what and how much they cost, we have all that history to go back and.
I did reach out to Bob Washburn from the inflatables earlier this week.
Oh, I saw that in your, yep.
Yeah, so they do have another event that day, but he agreed to do ours as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's gonna come with 3 or 4 inflatables, and we're not gonna do the games this year. Yeah.
So I do thank you, Deb, for introducing me to Bob. He was going to stop by and make sure that we could accommodate for giant inflatables. But he did send 2 proposals and a deadline and all of that stuff, which I can share with you offline, because that does need to be booked ASAP. And then I have the contact information for the pony folks and the animal encounters, and we can talk about who should reach out and how we should proceed for that.
Sure, I think in general, my understanding is whoever's the commissioner that's handling the event kind of starts to see, inquires about if they're available, and then kind of frame it like in terms of what do you want it to be, and then once that's kind of decided, then it gets handed off and we do the paperwork, essentially. But happy to intercede if there's questions and how things looked in previous years or provide input. I think that is it for Newcastle Days. That's the the biggest event in terms of content that needs to be determined and discussed. So I don't know in years past when that's kind of been locked down. We definitely have a little more breathing room compared to the other events, but still, it's going to be here before we know it. So that's we probably want to have it locked down by, but July for sure. If not by June, get pretty close to what at least the people that need to be booked. And there's also some email conversations about updating those, the documents, the performer and the vendor and all that. I've found the PDF versions. I haven't found the Word document version, so I can search for those and then get a draft or emailed out for people to review. And actually, I think you said you had comments on the SharePoint, so I haven't looked at that yet. Somebody said that they had comments on the SharePoint.
I have extensive comments on both of those forms, but
Okay.
again, I don't have the Word version.
Just the PDF, yeah.
Just the PDF.
I might have the Word version. I'll check tonight.
Okay, I haven't searched. I just looked in one place and I haven't searched anywhere else.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if we think back a week ago to where we are now, a huge thank you to staff and Deb and Amy for hopping on the bus and driving it forward. Because without you guys, I don't think we'd be in this place today. And honestly, a week ago, I was really concerned that I was going to have to call the mayor and let her know that we could not support summer events. And I think Newcastle is going to benefit. The community is going to love it. And so thank you, everybody, for all your hard work in making this happen. We're not there yet. I mean, we got a lot of work to do, but wow, what a difference a week can make.
From this, Nathan. We did have, do you guys remember last year, the guy who did the drums, the big drums? I think they were, yeah,
Yeah, he was great.
highlight of the show. So they reached out this week and they're interested in coming back. But he did call out that the website was really outdated. Who do we work with to start getting that updated?
One of us. I
Yeah, you can
already
start with us.
updated just the broad base of it. I mean, it's just changed the dates. So the dates have been changed. I don't know if these deadlines, I just left those. I updated the email address, and then this is still, hasn't been changed. I just changed it to 2023 and added this subject to change, but all the content's unchanged from last year.
Thank you.
And then there's the links to the, somewhere else, the link, oh, right here, the links to the forms. So once we get those, it's a simple matter of updating the link. And I also just want to echo Commissioner Sticks's comments about just everybody chipped in and helped out. And I just want to apologize for the failures of well, I'll call her out, Alexa, for, you know, when I'd last talked to her, it just kind of, all of a sudden you're hearing, okay, you can be out for a week, and then it just extrapolated. But, you know, prior to that, it wasn't much, maybe it was sometime in March, and everything sounded great, but I just didn't ask. I made the assumption, because she's done this type of stuff before at Sammamish, so I didn't ask the pointed specific questions about, well, has this happened? Has this happened? And so for that, I apologize.
We officially forgive you, Jeff. Yes. Water under the bridge.
Hey, Nathan.
Yes.
As soon as the bands get confirmed, it'd be really nice to have a flyer created so we can start publicizing or creating publicity around the events. I've gotten lots of questions about the summer concerts.
We can do that. If even just as simple as taking the PDF poster last year and just changing the names, that's the easiest thing. That's 5 minutes.
I don't know if anybody uses Canva, but it's super easy to do something new and exciting.
Okay.
For Ben, so yeah. I can do that too, yeah.
So one
Sorry. And then there's just some logistical stuff. I know last year that there were some tables and tents and things that were offered up to some of the organizations, including the Arts Council. So I just want to make sure that doesn't get off the radar screen.
Yeah, we will definitely have a Newcastle tent at all the events and add some extra tables for sure. Yeah. And I also wanted to add, when we get down to our committee assignments, that anything that comes up between now and some of the deadlines that we're going to be forecasting, just get that information to Jeff ASAP so that he can do with it what he needs to do with it and figure out, if he's not the resource, who's going to help get some of those things done. So if you've got, you know, emergent deadlines that are coming, make sure you keep Jeff in the loop. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. It's kind of like a wedding. You want to have all these things up front to get them booked, and then then there's a little bit of a lull, and then it's as you get closer to the event.
Okay, any other questions on the events? Okay. Next on our docket is an update on our new commissioner interviews. So Linda and I, over the last week, conducted 3 interviews, and first time I've ever sat through that interview process. You know, we've all been on the receiving end, but not on the giving end, and it was actually a very enjoyable experience, especially watching our mayor in action. And the good news is Linda has picked a candidate, and they've actually got it on the council docket for Tuesday to discuss our candidate. And hopefully, we will have that approved, final decision known, and so at our June meeting, we will be able to swear in our new commissioner. So very excited. Next on our docket is Earth Month recap. Commissioner D'Souza.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Davi, who's not here today, but for helping me brainstorm and just really getting my ideas executed. So I really want to thank him for helping with this. And I want to thank Amy for proofreading my flyers and just hanging out with me during some of these last minute meetings. I think we did a good job this year. We did an entire month event instead of a one-day event, which I think worked out pretty well. And I think we laid some good groundwork, to promote our 5 stewardships, which were composting, emission reductions, recycling, adopt a drain, and planting trees. And I think I'm hoping that we can build on that for next year and maybe tweak it a little bit so we have a little more participation from the community next year. But I think we're off to a good start. That's it.
Well, I, for one, went on a hike with a neighbor on the May Creek Trail, and I said, we have to be on the lookout. There are things in the woods, good things, and we found several. And Mark, my neighbor, is really big in social media. He took lots of pictures and he posted them. My favorite was a gnome who we found sitting on a mushroom, laying back. And I said, I have to send that to the communications director for the city and let them know we were part of the scavenger hunt. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, no, good job. Thank you.
I also stole 5 rocks from the city, so I will return those back.
You have to double it. So if you're going to return them, you need to return 10. Or just come to our event on June 3rd and make them there.
So Shally, I just have to say, for the first new event of our commission for several years, congratulations. It was very good and very successful. And thank you, Davi, for your support as well. Okay, 8.6, 2023, 8.5, Newcastle community and theme. So thank you to those of you that did go to our SharePoint site and put in some ideas. So on our Newcastle community is helping to define the community. Nathan and Amy have some ideas, but I'm going to start with Amy's because I like hers the best, and I think she kind of encapsulates it. So Amy, do you want to read what you said?
Sure. Newcastle is a community where we embrace and value a spirit of collective support and responsibility. We appreciate and strive to include all who live, work, play, and go to school here.
And mine was very just short. The Newcastle community is very diverse and supportive of its residents, but I really like what Amy has said, and I think I would like us to adopt that as our theme, as our, what is the Newcastle community? Sorry.
Feel free to tweak.
Any ideas? Any comments? Do you want some time to think about it? We can talk about it at our next meeting.
How would this be used again?
That's a very good question. So it was on our strategic goals for the year to define the Newcastle community. It's just one of our things that we would be able to share with council. I think share internally, share with staff, how it makes what we do important to the community and helping to define what we think the community is. Does that answer your question?
Are we going to use it in like communications, or is it going to become a tagline or anything?
could.
The only reason I ask is I was just wondering if we do use it in communications or it becomes a tagline, does it include the stuff, I know it's been a couple of years, but the survey about what people were looking for, does it include those salient points? And that's why I was hoping I could get a minute to review it against the survey.
So let's re-review it at our June meeting. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, and feel free to go into the SharePoint site and, add a flavor to it.
And please do, being in publishing, I'm used to people marking up my stuff, so.
I think it looks good.
Well, thank you, but please do, feel free to, get, all over it and add your own personal wahoo to it.
Okay, and so our theme, now that's the thing that we would then be able to use in communications and supporting events and flyers and things like that to really kind of give it a tagline. And some of the ideas that you guys submitted were live, love, smile, celebrate Newcastle, be extraordinary, we are one. I had live, love, laugh. I think Deb has feels like home, welcome home. Any thoughts? Anyone stand out?
I like welcome home.
Well, as I think about what Amy had written and how inclusive that was of people who not only lived in Newcastle but worked in Newcastle, or maybe just attend school in Newcastle, the home ones would feel exclusive if I'm an employee in Newcastle. I kind of like your city. It's very basic, but it's also kind of encompasses it, right?
So your city, your place or something. I mean, we would have to think more on that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, your city, our city. I like that.
Yeah.
As I was just Googling this, right?
ChatGPT.
Yeah, right? I saw that a lot of cities, they didn't seem to change it up every year, right? And that's why I put that last bullet there is should we just be thinking about a persistent theme that we use year after year after year?
So I'm very fond of Celebrate Newcastle because it's simple and it's positive and it really encompasses anything we would ever come up with. I mean, it's really about, right? But I do like your city, our city.
I think the marketer in me comes out when you say celebrate Newcastle, and it's well, what's in it for me, right? That's for Newcastle. So I like something that has to do with bringing them into the theme, like the your city, our city. Yeah, yeah.
It could be both, your city, your
Yeah.
Our city, your city. Okay.
Again, this is going to be used in the Newcastle promotional materials.
I think we can figure out exactly where we feel it fits, and maybe we can discuss this with our new community communication, or not community, our new city communications person, and see how this fits. But I think if we could just land on what we agree would be a good theme to use, then we can figure out how to tie it in. And I was hoping we could land that tonight, so we're not delaying that any further. Do you want me to say them again, and we can see if we have a unanimous decision? What do you think?
kind of on the fence. There's part of me that's like, I feel caged in by a by a theme right now. And because we're so pressed for time for some of these events and things like that, it's like I don't want the fact that it doesn't fit with some sort of theme that we've defined to be a reason that we can't do it, right? That it seems like a one-off or whatever. So I'm almost leaning toward, like, as Deb said, what if this theme is a persistent and long-term thing? And given that it's going to be persistent and long-term, we spend some time really thinking about how we could develop a concise theme that really defines our city and meets that long-term need, something that's inclusive and
I like that idea because like since the 25th anniversary, we've never used the theme we've come up with ever in anything.
Yeah.
So I think if we were to define something long-term, we could start putting in the signs and, that say, welcome to Newcastle, your city, your home, or whatever. So I agree with Kim on that.
Do you all agree?
Yeah, and I think if we go that route, I think we should get input outside of this group too.
Yeah.
So some of the other stakeholders in the city and ask them what they think.
We will spend more time on that then. Okay.
But Nathan, if you really want to land on something, we can have in the back of our minds, celebrate Newcastle for Newcastle Days. If that helps.
If we wanted to come up with a short-term,
Yes.
something for just maybe all of our events for the summer, we could do that. Yeah, it's a good idea, Amy, thank you. Okay. Subcommittee assignments. So what I wanted to do with this is make sure that we've got the right amount of people helping to support the planning of these events so that we can know that we've got what is needed to manage it. So looking down at summer events, concerts and 4th of July, Deb, Kim, you guys still fine running with that? Got enough help?
Yeah, I think we have enough help until it comes to the point of course, making all the contracts and getting through the details of setting things up.
And that's where utilizing Jeff
Yeah.
to make sure we've got the staff needed to help with that. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. And like as Jeff used the wedding analogy, where there's you get all the things done, and then right before there's a bunch of stuff. Like that is the last day of June 30th is the last day of school for Seattle Public Schools. So I do not have capacity at that time. We can do things now a little, but not around the first probably.
Well, and I would think most things would be done by then.
I hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other one I wanted to go over tonight was Newcastle Days, just to make sure, because right now I kind of feel like we don't have enough commissioners helping to support the event.
So last year, Deb carried the work of a full-time staff member in the amount of volunteer time that she devoted to supporting Kate. And, I came along later in the process. So I'm concerned, not just for my time, but Deb is my backup and mentor as she hands over the baton. But in Jeff's time as well. I mean, this is really a multifaceted event with many pieces to it. I'm not sure adding commissioners is necessarily going to solve all the issues that'll come up.
So in the absence of staff support at this point, we have to look at it and say, what do we have the bandwidth to do
Okay.
and the capabilities to be those who do it, right? And I just want to make sure that the two of you, if you need additional support from the commission, that we can help to give you that support if people have the bandwidth to do that. If we don't, then I think we're going to have to maybe rely a little more heavily with Jeff on getting somebody, and maybe that's our first step. Maybe the first step is we take a look at what our options are to help support our events from a, we'll call it a contract standpoint. And maybe that's where we need to start. But I do know Newcastle Days, just because I was on that subcommittee 2 years ago, had a lot of moving parts to it.
So what I'm hearing is that it's now on the commission to project manage and drive this event.
In the absence of staff, yes.
I feel like I did that last year anyway, though. I mean, but I think one of the things I would recommend, really, if you like doing flyers, is maybe you could help us get those flyers out now that we need. And that's a sponsorship flyer, a call for vendors if we decide to do that, and then a call for performers if we decide to do that.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, then I will project manage this out and figure out what tasks can be delegated, what needs to go to staff, and go from there. And if we need to scale back on things, just because of, time constraints, then we scale back on things. But with Deb's workbook from last year, I am confident I can project manage this out. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that correctly.
And then Amy, just FYI, the things that are missing from that workbook are things like insurance, right? I didn't take care of that. And hiring the food trucks, I didn't take care of that.
Yeah.
So those are the things that aren't in there that I'm not sure we could cover it all, because I'm not sure what all it is.
Well, I think that's where it would be helpful if you think about the things that weren't covered, that we run those by Jeff and say, we can do these things, but we're going to need help doing these things. In the absence of having somebody hired to help support our events.
I can help really get granular on that and what's needed, honestly.
Thank you, both of you. And we're not going to go through all the other things that we have on here yet, because we're kind of in a DEFCON mode, as I'll call it, to just drive home the three major events that we're working on. So we were at DEFCON 5. I reduced that to DEFCON 4 just about 10 minutes ago. Okay. All right, guys, last thing on the docket is the park inventory plan. So Davi and Alexa had met some time ago, and I'm sure you've all seen Davi's email about my brain just died. Not the master plan, the comp plan, thank you. And had a list of all the parks, and I said to Davi that we had agreed that we would focus on the 5 that they had originally given us. And I just simplified his form. And I said we would attempt tonight to hopefully come up with a day or divide these up. But I thought we had all agreed last meeting that we could all kind of come in together, meet at the parks, and get these 5 done in like just several hours. Are we still liking that idea?
My only reason to not do that is, again, missing the public records person. If we all meet together, we have to notice it. If we don't meet together, we don't. So if a small group of us, if we divide it, we can eliminate one step for an already overburdened staff. And I think we still could have the collaborative nature of talking to one another and, getting the feedback that's needed.
She's correct. So you could go out in 2s or 3s, or you could notice an event.
Is that what you guys would prefer us to do? So we don't have to go through that?
Either way, whichever. If previously when they did this, 5-6 years ago, it was not the whole commission as a group. It was individuals that did that. They went in teams.
Yeah. So to not notice it, you'd have to do less than 4.
Which I think that's fine. I mean, you could either focus on what things you want to concentrate on, or you can exchange each other's list. You could, 2 groups go to all 5 parks. However you want to split it up, I think is fine. Just I think the input's going to be valuable either way.
I guess one idea is we just take the list and go on our own, or twos, or buddy up. Ed, you want to buddy up? Okay. Everybody good? And so I think the deadline, Davi wanted this back was beginning of June would be preferable. So between now and June, if you guys will buddy up and go visit the parks.
Will we split the parks or everybody go to all of them? I remember last time we had two groups and we just split the parks, but then we did all the parks, every single park, so.
Well, the one that I'm a little worried about, which is a very large park, is May Creek. May Creek is, if I'm understanding, it's the park and the trail and the, right?
Right, it's an undeveloped park, so there's not, I don't think there's the expectation of being in the park. Maybe it's just things you're aware of or trailheads. Probably the main center would be the Barnum Station area, but then there's, the different trailheads, the one at the water line and the one at Coal Creek Parkway
Okay.
and the one at Windtree. But I wouldn't think, that could almost be from your, just awareness of being in that park or using that trail, as opposed to, develop a park where it's going to be looking at a lot more of the furniture that's in the park or the maintenance needs.
Okay. So do we want to do them all? Or split them up?
We can aim to do them all, but, and hopefully we will have at least 2 groups visit all of them. But given that we need to have them done by the beginning of June, it may be that we can't get to all of them. But we could aim to.
I can get to all 5 parks by June.
I think we can get to all 5. Ed, do you think we can get to all 5? I think we can. All right, let's aim to do that, and then
New dog walk every day.
I would say when you've got your information prepared, if somebody could recap it and just send it off to Davi, that would be great. Is that,
So deadline is the beginning of June? Deadline's the beginning of June? Beginning of June, okay.
And I'd say that that's not a hard date. June 4th is just as good.
okay? Any questions on the park inventory?
Vice Chair,
Yeah,
is this form okay for you guys, or I could email it out? You guys want something different, or you can just take this form?
Didn't Davi already email it out?
That's what, yeah, this is. I just
Just making sure.
made it a little easier to actually write stuff into it. Thanks, Scott.
off subject, but kind of related. What's the status of the Lake Warren Park renovation?
The contract is executed and we're scheduling the pre-construction meeting. So it's either going to be the end of this month or early June, the pre-construction meeting. So I'd expect they would start mobilizing in June.
That is
So-
very exciting.
So are there areas of the park that we should be focused on that are gonna not be part of the project? So,
The only part of the existing park that's going to be touched is where the trail connects to the North Loop Trail. So it's pretty much, it's only going to come in there kind of where that rock garden area is. That's the only area of the existing park that's going to be impacted.
okay.
So
And
the
then,
rest of it won't be touched.
and then what about the renovations for the dock?
The council just approved a design contract. I mean, it's not really design, it's putting together the bid package. So that, and that's gonna mainly focus on the flotation needs. There's also actually Connor and I were just looking at that yesterday. The decking needs some love at some point, and then also the transition to the I don't know what you call it, but the part that's connected to the land also needs some work, and that's not gonna be part of this project. So we're aware of that. I don't think you would need to, that's a known entity and a known issue.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
And one more question. Are there any other projects like that where if you look at these three, or these listings of parks that we should be?
Which are the 5 again?
So Lake Warren, May Creek, Donegal, Hazelwood Park, and Redmond Park.
Okay, so Hazelwood, we're aware of the boardwalk issue. We'd actually thought about, we have money in the budget to try and do that this year, but it's it's gonna be closer by like $100,000. We only have $25,000 budgeted. So the question is whether or not basically it's not a repair job; it's a tear down and reconstruct. So that's why it's a budget buster. So probably where we're looking at now is something that's like the trail, the boardwalk the city constructed a few years ago behind Aegis, something of that nature. So you wouldn't have, that's a known, you wouldn't have to put that down. But if you had suggestions for what you'd like it to look like, or if you examples of something, that would certainly be welcomed. Anytime if you are aware of a feature or something you're like, oh, like they, Coolon or this park up in Bellingham, would love to see those suggestions.
Any other questions for Jeff on that? Scott, any additional public comment?
Done.
Okay. So if there's nothing further, I will officially call this meeting adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.